The management of human resources is at the core of the company administration process, as it is a potential source of competitive advantage. This management falls within a broader process that begins with the acquisition of personnel necessary to perform certain tasks and functions in the company and continues with integration into the organization through motivational policies aimed at reconciling corporate development with the growth and development of the individual's professionalism. In recent years, the world of organizations has increasingly focused on human resources because the quality and skills of these resources constitute a real competitive advantage for companies operating in all sectors. In the last decade, companies have had to face a reality characterized by profound technological revolutions, consequently bringing about changes in professions. The importance of skills, knowledge, and the ability to continuously learn has proven to be fundamental for companies, thus demonstrating an interest in securing and retaining people with the most talent. The human resources function has therefore begun to occupy an increasingly central role, starting from the assumption that employees are a real asset for the company. The management of human resources is becoming increasingly important in companies, evolving from the traditional predominantly administrative role to a more strategic one, given the centrality that modern management models attribute to human resources and their development for achieving objectives. Since the early 1980s, there has been an increasing awareness that the worker in the company represents a strategic variable, which should not be considered a cost, but rather an active resource to invest in and rely on, equal to, or more than, financial capital and the contribution of technologies. The worker tends to be considered as a person, with their own system of values and expectations, but also a treasure trove of skills and experiences, a resource for the organization, a resource to be valued, potentially decisive for the survival and growth of companies, fundamental in acquiring, maintaining, and developing the competitive advantage over competitors. Motivated people are a real added value for the organization. Motivation is indeed the element that provides the right impetus towards the realization of successful projects and the achievement of goals. As mentioned, it has become a widely accepted idea at the organizational and corporate level that human resources are a fundamental asset for a company, as the qualities and skills of these resources constitute a real competitive advantage within the market and their relevant sector. Recently, and especially in the last decade, this concept has been further reinforced, as profound technological innovations have significantly changed the way of conceiving and carrying out many professions. The importance of having professional figures with cutting-edge skills, continuous learning abilities, and above all, high dynamism in a company has proven to be essential for businesses, for which finding attractive and motivational ways to attract and retain the most talented people has become one of the main problems. Thus, the belief that proper human resource management can help determine the success of one's business is expanding, or even that it can constitute a fundamental element to be considered when formulating the organization's strategy. The human resources function has thus begun to occupy an increasingly central role, as it represents the added value of companies, and at the same time, the need to implement new personnel management techniques has emerged, better suited to creating favorable working conditions for the development of individual potential and providing the right motivation to grow and remain within the company, linking their success to the success of the organization. Every person within the organization has their own life project and needs that find in the company one of the possible areas where they can be realized. If a person does not live well at work, if they are not satisfied, and do not find fulfillment in the activity they perform, the company as a whole suffers. There will be less creativity in the tasks performed and less personal initiative, and ultimately, lower economic results, as the company will be less capable of providing the market with innovative products and services, more suitable for market conditions, more attractive to customers, and hence, a lower competitive advantage. But what actions must an organization take to implement processes aimed at proper human resource management? To efficiently manage human resources, it is essential to make the most of their potential, and therefore, it is of fundamental importance to use technologically advanced and innovative solutions, capable of allowing the integrated management of business processes. This implies that the human resources functions must undergo a transformation process to outline a complete and integrated program for managing human resources, integrating information and practices related to colleagues with corporate processes and strategies. To enable and facilitate such operations, companies will need to equip themselves with effective tools aimed at implementing programs dedicated to managing human resources and, at the same time, integrated with the company's business processes to increase the productivity of their staff. Without the use of these tools, it would be quite difficult to remain competitive in the current economic system, characterized by constant evolution and continuous changes. Implementing a managerial strategy means carrying out long-term planning, i.e., creating a decision-making, an action model undertaken by the highest level of the organization to achieve pre-established performance goals. The manager, now more than ever a leader, must align the human resources function with the organization's strategic objectives to improve performance. The staff's personnel and organizational structures should be designed to support the organization's strategy. The staff should be managed and treated in such a way as to be engaged in the organization and in the pursuit of its goals. To this end, a correct internal communication is indispensable, an instrument that no work activity can ignore, as it represents an exchange aimed at establishing and improving the principles of efficiency of one's work. Two types of communication on which attention should be focused are top-down communication, from the top, executive bodies, to the bottom, employees. To implement this type of internal corporate communication, various practical tools can be used, such as the use of internal messaging, email, or circulars, an intranet network that exploits the organization of a management software, and the periodic organization of meetings or briefings with employees to explain and share the same information and goals. Bottom-up communication, the flow of information from the bottom up. This type of communication takes place through internal procedures to be followed, e.g., filling in fields of the internal management program, or drafting periodic reports of one's activities, or simply entering one's appointments in a shared intranet calendar, meetings, and individual interviews. To obtain the best from this type of communication, it is essential to establish a relationship of trust with one's employees, to whom the importance of the concept of disseminating corporate information will have been adequately communicated. The current evolutionary trends of organizational systems in companies show that, despite technological progress, it is still man who represents the fundamental resource, that resource on which to base the foundations of the company's well-being. Organizations are people. People work within themselves, and for the organizations. People make organizations what they are. Organizations are born, live, survive, develop, or die, also due to the merit, or demerit, of their fundamental resource, human resources. The source of competitive advantage for businesses lies precisely in their ability to optimally utilize such resources. Motivation is a term, first used in the psycho-socio-educational field, and recently also in the managerial field, that describes the process that drives an organism toward a particular goal. Motivation is therefore the exposure of the reasons why a particular thing is done, or the reason is, why something is done or not done. Etymologically, from Latin modus, it indicates movement, i.e., the direction of a subject towards a desired object, towards a goal, therefore recalls the movement that leads to action. Motivation is a theoretical construct used to explain the beginning, direction, intensity, and persistence of behavior, especially goal-oriented behavior. Motivation can be defined as the set of factors that underlie a person's behavior, and therefore their actions, to achieve a goal. Motivation is a significant factor, first and foremost for the employee. In fact, he or she experiences exclusively individual and personal drives when providing services. Motivation is a kind of engine for each individual resource, the fuel that ensures high quality in the performance of their duties. More reason. The employee's motivation must be nurtured by the entrepreneur with recognition, awards, expressions of esteem, or whatever, since that resource is indispensable and increasingly rare when performing at its best. Consider other aspects, such as training, interpersonal relationships and communication between employee and company, employee responsibility in performing tasks, playing such a crucial role in business life. Managing human resources and motivating them in performing daily tasks is the driving force for the entrepreneur's life. Motivation primarily depends on two elements: skills, what the individual is capable of doing; personal values, what the individual wants to do. Motivation, as defined by Maslow, is a drive dictated by needs that are at the root of behavior. Motivation, therefore, combines those needs and values with what we know how to do. It combines our skills with our personal values. In other words, when a need arises, i.e., when there is an imbalance between what we desire and our situation, motivation pushes us to act by combining our skills and values. There are three types of motivation. Primary, physiological motivations that involve actions necessary for our survival, such as drinking or eating. Secondary, it arises in cases of social or individual nature, derived from the socialization process of individuals, such as competition or cooperation. Higher level, these motivations concern the pursuit of one's goals based on one's own values and ideals. For Maslow, needs and motivations are essentially the same thing, and are divided more or less into the same categories. Needs are structured in degrees, and according to this hierarchy of needs, one cannot move on to the next level if the lower level needs have not been satisfied. There is, therefore, a hierarchical structure of needs, in which the individual is represented as the sum of all these needs. Recognizing these needs allows the focus to be placed on the individual. Maslow starts from the idea that individuals are unique and irreplaceable. While needs are common to all, to improve the condition of people, it is necessary to satisfy the basic needs of man. Needs are divided into fundamental and superior, and the non-satisfaction of the former, as we have seen previously, leads to the non-fulfillment of the latter. As mentioned in the previous units, according to Maslow, man is motivated to act with the intent to satisfy a series of needs that he places within a hierarchical pyramidal structure. At the base of the pyramid are the essential needs for survival. While moving towards the top, one encounters more immaterial needs. Physiological needs, hunger, thirst, sleep, thermoregulation, etc. These are needs related to the physical survival of the individual. They are the first to be satisfied due to the instinct of self-preservation. Security needs, protection, peace, predictability, suppression of concerns and anxieties, etc. They must guarantee the individual protection and peace. Belonging needs, being loved and loving, being part of a group, cooperating, participating, etc. It represents the aspiration of each of us to be an element of the community. Esteem needs, being respected, approved, recognized, etc. The individual wants to feel competent and productive. Self-actualization needs, realizing one's identity based on expectations and potentialities, occupying a social role, etc. It is the individual's aspiration to be what one wants to be by exploiting mental and physical faculties. According to this theory, the needs perceived by the individual can be grouped into 5 different categories and are organized according to a specific hierarchy. Thus, a need is not motivating for an individual if they have not first satisfied the lower level needs on the hierarchical scale. At the base of the pyramid are physiological needs, i.e., those needs related to the very survival of man: hunger, thirst, rest, shelter. These needs are the first to be satisfied, and only when they are regularly satisfied do other higher-level needs arise in the individual. Then come security needs, understood both as physical safety, guaranteed by rules that protect the health and safety of workers, and as the need for job stability, i.e., assistance against unemployment, illnesses, and accidents. Essentially, they are needs related to the desire for protection and tranquility. One level higher in the scale of needs, we find social needs, i.e., the sense of belonging to a group, the need to be accepted by others, to receive friendship and affection. Then come esteem needs, understood both in the sense of others' esteem and self-esteem. At the top of the pyramid are self-actualization needs, which consist of wanting to be what one desires based on one's abilities and aspirations and wanting to occupy a satisfying position in the group. According to Maslow, a regularly satisfied need does not have a high motivating force. Furthermore, a need is not motivating if the lower level needs on the hierarchical scale have not been satisfied. Therefore, for a higher level need to emerge, it is necessary that all lower level needs have been satisfied. In more economically advanced societies, where the lower level needs of the hierarchical scale are commonly satisfied, such as physiological and security needs, the motivation for esteem and self-actualization prevails over other hierarchically lower needs. Employee motivation is a concept in work and organizational psychology. Work psychology analyses activities to assess them, and then design work processes. The goal is to promote competence and skills in the workplace. In this context, there are parallels with the concept of work motivation, which deals with the basic needs that must be satisfied to work motivated. Employee motivation, on the other hand, actively involves employees to ensure their well-being at work and influence their behavior in such a way as to work with the greatest enthusiasm towards the company's goals. This can occur by maintaining the same performance levels or increasing them. Furthermore, if some employees' performance results in negativity, radical changes can be implemented. Thus, employee motivation is closely related to the fundamental needs of the employee, including emotional involvement. The lack of ties to the company indicates a correlation with the lack of motivation. Often, Employees mention the same reasons for both situations: ineffective communication, lack of transparency, lack of agility, lack of a culture of error. Employees who have few or no ties to the company often find themselves at an extremely low level of motivation. Motivated and company-connected employees are willing to be more efficient, more innovative, and even more resistant to stress. As a result, this leads to higher sales and higher earnings. The most important point in employee motivation is paying attention to the employee as an individual, as different types of people have very different basic needs and expectations at work. Employee motivation represents a business management philosophy that is easy to implement and, at the same time, cost-effective for promoting a positive work atmosphere and aiming to enhance the quality of the entire corporate system. To encourage and motivate staff through involvement and recognition, there is no need for a budget. However, it is not so easy to create an optimal work environment. First, it is essential to have good corporate leadership, and the first step to implementing it is a good system of organizational and personal communication with employees. Transparent decisions and clear corporate values that create a sense of belonging increase the bond between employees and the company. Motivated people are a real added value for the organization. Motivation is, in fact, the element that gives the right boost towards the realization of successful projects and the achievement of objectives.